Welcome, everyone, to this deep dive. We're digging into the materials you sent, especially focusing on Jack Challem's The Food Mood Solution.
That's right. And our goal here is really to pull out the key ideas for you, listener, about how how it connects to your mood and behavior.
Yeah, what you eat and, how you live your life actually impacts how you feel day to day.
It's all about making that connection clear and giving you some practical insights.
And it's a bigger issue than many might realize, isn't it? There was that statistic, I think, from the Archives of General Psychiatry.
Oh, yeah, the one saying at least half of us will likely face a significant mood or mental health issue at some point.
Half. That's huge.
It really is. And the sources we're looking at cover a whole range, from anxiety and stress
Right, the everyday stuff.
to anger, feeling down, even things like overeating or substance abuse issues. It's a broad spectrum.
Okay, so let's dive in. The very first big idea, and I think Dr. Werbach mentioned this in the foreword, is this tight link between the body and mind.
Absolutely fundamental. They're not separate entities operating independently. It's more like a partnership.
So what happens physically affects you mentally
And vice versa. It's
Right.
totally a two-way street. The foreword even notes how a positive outlook can genuinely benefit your physical health, your longevity even.
While things like chronic stress can, well, make you more susceptible to illness.
Exactly. It's this constant interplay.
And I found this part really fascinating. When you feel good, your body and mind actually produce these, like, cocktails of brain chemicals.
Neurotransmitters.
Right, and they don't just feel good momentarily, they actually impact your mood and how you act long term.
It really shines a light on food, doesn't it? As maybe a key piece we sometimes overlook in health.
Yeah, Dr. Werbach seemed to hint at that, suggesting nutrition might be, well, underutilized.
And he mentioned how people with similar issues can respond so differently to treatments, which really highlights how individual things are.
Like genetics, stress, lifestyle.
And definitely what you're eating, it all matters.
So, thinking about those bad moods, those crummy feelings we all get sometimes, what are the big drivers, according to this material?
Well, you've got the obvious stuff, right? The daily pressures, stress from work, home, even the commute.
The commute. Don't remind me.
Feeling constantly rushed, like you're running on fumes, that definitely takes a toll, mentally and physically.
But then the book brings in the food aspect really strongly.
Exactly. It argues that a lot of those bad moods aren't just random bad luck. They can actually be linked to our diet.
Like eating foods that don't support those feel-good brain chemicals we need.
Precisely. Foods that might actually deplete them or interfere with their production.
This leads into that nutrisocial concept the book mentions. What's that about?
It's basically saying the food-mood connection isn't super simple. It's complex. It's influenced by, the stresses of modern society.
The fast pace, the constant demand.
Right. And the typical eating habits that often go along with that kind of lifestyle. It's the whole picture.
Can you give us a really practical example, something people might recognize from their own lives?
Sure. Think about that classic afternoon slump. After lunch, you feel tired. Maybe your thinking gets a bit fuzzy, hard to focus.
Oh, yeah. The 2 p.m. crash. Definitely know that one.
Well, the book points out that while it feels normal, it's not really optimal. It's often because you ate too much or had a lot of sugary or refined carbs.
Like white bread, pasta, sugary drink.
Exactly. That causes a big, fast spike in your blood sugar, your glucose.
You get that initial rush, maybe feel energetic for a bit.
But what goes up must come down, right? And the crash follows. Your brain needs a pretty steady glucose supply.
Not these wild swings.
Right. So when it plummets after that high boom, tiredness, brain fog, poor concentration, your brain's literally low on fuel.
And the flip side, the book talks about low blood sugar too, linking it to feeling impatient, irritable.
Even aggressive sometimes. That hangry feeling is totally real.
Huh. Yes, hangry is definitely a thing.
When glucose gets too low, it can trigger those negative moods, plus physical stuff like feeling shaky or weak.
It connects this back to our ancestors needing to find food quickly.
Yeah, kind of a primal signal.
Yeah.
But today, if you're stressed and stuck in traffic with low blood sugar, not a good combo.
Okay, let's talk about deficiencies. We tend to think, in the West, we get enough nutrients. Is that always true?
Well, the book argues maybe not. It suggests that deficiencies in key neuronutrients are actually, surprisingly common in the U.S.
Really? Even with fortified foods and everything?
Apparently so. And while other places like Canada or Western Europe might have traditionally healthier diets, they're seeing more of this too. The book calls it modern malnutrition.
And the blame falls largely on American junk food. Is that what it says?
Pretty much the global spread of, sugary drinks, fast food, processed snacks,
Hmm.
they tend to crowd out the good stuff.
And they can interfere with nutrient absorption, too.
That's a key point. They don't just lack nutrients, they can actively hinder your body's ability to use the vitamins and minerals you do get.
It's not just the food itself, though, is it?
Mhm.
The stresses of modern life play a huge role, too, impacting those neurotransmitters.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the sheer speed of everything now.
Yeah.
Constant connectivity, phones, emails, social media, always on.
That feeling of needing to keep up, multitasking constantly.
Exactly. The book mentions Alvin Toffler's future shock idea, this sense of being overwhelmed by rapid change. It leads to anxiety, irritability, feeling wiped out.
And when you're stressed, you often reach for less healthy food,
Right.
creating a vicious cycle.
Totally. You grab the quick, easy, often junky stuff, maybe skip meals entirely, and that just further depletes the nutrients your brain needs to cope with the stress in the first place.
There was also that interesting idea about marketing through anxiety.
Yeah, suggesting that using fear and uncertainty in advertising actually adds to the general anxiety levels in society.
Which then puts more strain on our neurotransmitter systems.
Wow. It's a thought-provoking angle, isn't it?
Okay, so these neurotransmitters,
Yeah.
they're clearly central. Let's break down the key players mentioned. Serotonin first.
Right. Serotonin is often called the calming neurotransmitter. When levels are low, it's linked to things like depression, anxiety, panic, even OCD.
And it's made from tryptophan, an amino acid.
Yes, and requires things like vitamin B6 and inositol to be produced efficiently. Think of it as your natural mood stabilizer.
Okay, next up, GABA. Also calming.
Very much so. GABA's job is kind of like filtering out brain noise, helps you focus. Low GABA can mean anxiety, panic, insomnia, like the volume in your brain is stuck on high.
Then there's dopamine. That's more about pleasure and motivation.
Generally, yes. Dopamine is usually stimulating. It's key for reward, drive, getting things done. It's made from tyrosine.
Other amino acid.
Right, and needs nutrients like folic acid, B6, magnesium, zinc, and semi. It's your get-up-and-go chemical.
Got it. What about norepinephrine?
Also generally stimulating, linked to alertness, focus, energy. Interestingly, it's made from dopamine.
Oh.
And needs vitamins B6, C, and copper for that conversion. Hormones like DHEA can boost it, while the stress hormone cortisol can dampen it.
Which brings us to the stress hormones themselves. Epinephrine or adrenaline.
Yep, adrenaline. It's both a hormone and a neurotransmitter. Sharpens your mind, gets you ready for fight or flight.
But too much isn't good.
No, chronic high adrenaline can fuel anxiety and hyperactivity. It's meant for short bursts.
And cortisol, the long-term stress hormone.
That's the one. Essential in small doses, but chronically high levels are bad news. Linked to anxiety, insulin resistance, weight gain, high blood pressure.
And it pushes back against norepinephrine, you said.
It does. It kind of dampens that alertness effect.
The book also mentions other neuronutrients. Not neurotransmitters exactly, but important helpers, like NAC.
Yeah, N-acetylcysteine. It helps regulate glutamate and GABA levels, which is crucial for nerve cell communication. Some research suggests it might even help with cravings.
Interesting. And DHEA.
That's a hormone that influences both norepinephrine and dopamine activity. Levels tend to drop as we age, but some studies found higher doses helped with mood, particularly depression.
It's incredible how interconnected this all is. And it's not just the neurotransmitters. Glucose and insulin are huge players too, even though they aren't neurotransmitters themselves.
Absolutely critical. Glucose is brain fuel, insulin manages it, but the book stresses that big swings in blood sugar can really mess with your mood.
Sometimes even more than just having low blood sugar.
Yeah, those rapid ups and downs can be a real problem and maybe an early warning sign of sugar processing issues like prediabetes.
It also briefly mentions genetics and brain allergies.
Right. Some people are just genetically more prone to certain mood issues, and the brain allergy idea is that certain foods might trigger mood or behavior changes in sensitive individuals. Worth considering if you notice patterns.
Let's dig into specific nutrients highlighted. B vitamins seem really important, especially B6.
B6 is definitely a star player here. The book almost calls it the most important B vitamin for mood and behavior.
Why is that?
Because it's absolutely essential for making serotonin, that key calming neurotransmitter. Low serotonin, more mood problems. Simple as that.
And it has specific benefits for women with PMS.
Yes, significant benefits. Studies show B6 can cut overall PMS symptoms, moodiness, irritability, anxiety by more than half for many women.
Wow. What about B12?
B12 is crucial for making DNA, needed for building new brain cells. A big concern, the book notes, is that many older adults don't absorb B12 well due to lower stomach acid.
Which can lead to deficiency and impact mood and thinking.
Exactly, it can be quite significant.
Okay, moving on to other supplements. Inositol caught my eye because the studies used really high doses.
Yeah, the research on inositol for depression, panic attacks, and OCD used doses like 12 to 18 grams a day, which sounds like a lot.
It does.
But the key finding was that even at those high doses, it appeared much safer than many standard medications for the same conditions.
That's interesting. And GABA comes up again, but as a supplement this time?
Yes, and the interesting mechanism mentioned is how it filters out that background noise in the brain.
So it could actually sharpen focus, not just relax you.
Potentially, yes, by helping you concentrate on what matters. Relaxation effects usually kick in within 30-40 minutes. And hey, it's also found naturally in green tea.
Good to know. Tryptophan and 5-HTP are mentioned too. They're precursors for serotonin.
Correct. They provide the raw materials your body needs to make serotonin. So supplementing can help boost levels if you're low, potentially helping with depression, anxiety, or insomnia.
Ginkgo biloba. More for memory and thinking scene.
That seems to be its main benefit highlighted. A UK study showed students taking it had better memory and processed information faster.
And finally, melatonin. Mostly for sleep?
Primarily, yes. It regulates the sleep-wake cycle. It can be particularly helpful, the book notes, for seasonal depression that often hits in winter, but dosage varies a lot between people.
Now, a really crucial point the book makes is that supplements work best alongside a good diet, right? They're not magic bullets.
Not at all. You need that foundation of a mood-enhancing diet.
So what are the core principles for that kind of eating?
Number 1, whole, unprocessed foods as much as possible. Real food.
And limit the fast food.
Definitely. It's usually loaded with unhealthy fats, heavily processed, stripped of nutrients and flavor.
What about eating out? It suggests being a responsible consumer.
Yeah, basically means don't be passive, ask questions. Ask how things are cooked, what ingredients are used.
So maybe avoid the obvious pitfalls.
Right, like starchy sides, pasta, white rice, potatoes, deep-fried anything, and maybe give the breadbasket a miss sometimes.
Makes sense. And reading labels when shopping is key.
Crucial. Especially looking out for trans fats, often hidden as partially hydrogenated oils.
Like high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah. And be cautious, even with packaged foods labeled healthy, they can still hide stuff you want to avoid.
What about fats and oils? Which ones should we favor?
Focus on healthy ones like olive oil, macadamia nut oil, avocado oil. Limit the refined vegetable oils like corn, soy, peanut oil. They can be pro-inflammatory.
The book gives some meal examples too, just to make it concrete.
Yeah, things like sautéed chicken breasts with lots of veggies, pan-fried salmon, chicken soup. Simple, whole food meals.
Seared tuna, salads with homemade vinaigrette, omelets. Basically lean protein veggies, healthy fats.
That's the core idea, nutrient-dense and balanced.
Okay, beyond food, physical activity gets a lot of emphasis too. It's not just for weight management, is it?
Absolutely not. Exercise is huge for mood. It reduces the risk of depression and anxiety, boosts self-esteem.
And even the social side of it can help.
For sure. And the good news is you don't need to run marathons. Even just 10 minutes of regular activity makes a difference. It adds up.
Diet, exercise, and stress management. That's another big piece.
A huge piece. Actively working to reduce stress is vital. That means setting boundaries.
Saying no sometimes.
Exactly. Managing your time better, prioritizing, getting enough consistent sleep, that's key. And practices like mindfulness or meditation.
And connection. Positive relationships and expressing emotions healthily.
Super important for emotional well-being. Good communication helps using "I feel" statements instead of "you did" accusations.
Letting go of negativity, improving self-talk, gratitude, forgiveness.
All powerful tools for managing your inner world.
Okay, the book then gets into specific issues. Let's touch on those. Irritability, anger, aggressiveness.
It suggests these often come from deeper feelings, like frustration or hurt. Nutritionally, it flags a possible link to copper-zinc imbalances and problems handling sugar.
And omega-3s might help.
Potentially, yeah. Fish oil might help reduce aggression. Psychologically, recognizing your triggers, deep breathing, setting boundaries are practical steps.
What about anxiety, panic, OCD? Seems so common now.
It really does. Anxiety is a spectrum, often stress-triggered. Caffeine and sugar can definitely make it worse.
B vitamins are important here.
Very important for managing anxiety. For panic attacks, finding a safe space and deep breathing helps in the moment. Supplements like inositol, GABA, L-theanine, 5-HTP might offer support too.
And for OCD,
Mindfulness and gradual exposure techniques are mentioned as helpful strategies.
distractibility, impulsiveness, ADHD-like behaviors.
The book kind of argues our modern world encourages this, but it also says diet and supplements can often help reverse it.
Like B vitamins, magnesium, omega-3s again.
Yep. And limiting sugar and refined carbs is really important. Behaviorally, mindfulness and single tasking are recommended.
Mood swings, tiredness, that mental fuzziness connected to prediabetes.
That's the link the book makes. These could be early signs your blood sugar regulation is off.
So the advice is a low sugar, low refined carb diet, high in protein and fiber.
Exactly. To stabilize blood sugar, supplements like alpha-lipoic acid, chromium, cinnamon might also help support that.
How about just feeling down? Differentiating that from clinical depression.
Right, everyone has off days. But persistent low mood or depression is different and can have many causes, including biochemical imbalances.
Vitamin B12 deficiency is mentioned as one possible cause for sudden down feelings.
It is. For managing depression more broadly, the book talks about talk therapy, exercise, and supplements like St. John's wort, SAMe, and omega-3s, but persistent low mood needs professional assessment.
Definitely. And finally, alcohol and drug abuse, a very complex area.
Extremely complex. The book stresses how these substances mess with mood and behavior and cause major nutritional problems.
And nutritional issues might even increase susceptibility.
That's suggested, like a link between alcoholism and problems with glucose metabolism. A protein-rich, vegetable-heavy diet is recommended for recovery.
Along with supplements like B vitamin, C, and AC.
Yes, as part of a comprehensive approach, including therapy and support groups, of course. Nutrition is just one piece of that puzzle.
Wow. Okay, we've covered a huge amount of ground. This deep dive into the food-mood solution and related ideas really offers such a powerful lens, doesn't it?
It really does. It provides you, the listener, with a whole toolkit, really, to understand that connection between food, mood, and how you act.
So much practical advice in there, nutritionally and in terms of lifestyle.
Yeah, and we really hope listeners take some time to think about it, maybe identify one or two small changes they could realistically make.
Small steps, sustainable changes, that seems to be the key.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be a massive overhaul overnight.
And the book points towards other resources, too, ways to find practitioners, treatment centers, good suppliers.
Yeah.
That could be a useful next step for some.
Definitely worth exploring if you want to go deeper or get personalized help.
So maybe a final thought to leave our listener with.
Well, I think it's worth remembering that taking these steps, looking after your relationship with food, managing stress, moving your body, it's not just for you.
Ah, right. It affects how you interact with others, too.
Exactly. It can create positive ripples. So maybe the question is, looking at all this, what's one small thing, one concrete step you could choose to start with today?